let's get on with this. So first of all, I've got out here everything you're going to need. Key bit, you're going to need some wetsuit trousers. You're going to struggle to fit one of these without them. Make sure you've got them the right way up, because it has been known people have fitted these on the back of the wetsuit. So things you're going to need. You need your trousers, then you're going to need some neoprene. This is 5mm neoprene. So the reason being you want 5 or 7mm is because you're going to be gluing a lot of the neoprene all along the edge of it, and if you've only got 3mm or 2.5mm, it's really difficult to glue it neatly and do a good job and get a good seal. Next up, you're going to need to be able to cut that, so a pair of scissors is very handy. You know, just any decent sharp kitchen scissors works. We've got our scissors, and then you're going to need some neoprene adhesive. You know, any decent wetsuit cement will work fine. A tape measure, that can come in handy for when you're working out where to put it. You definitely want to get it in the right place. Sharpie for marking up where you're going to put it on the suit, where you're going to cut your holes. You're going to want a piece of cardboard. This is just a slot inside the suit, in between the two pieces, for when you're gluing everything up, so that way when you're pressing down on certain bits of the suit, it doesn't end up sticking both sides of the suit together, because that will essentially ruin your entire wetsuit. Finally, one thing that makes it a lot easier is having a plastic bottle or a beer bottle, something like that. It needs to be a bottle with quite a decent neck on it. If you just get a 2-litre bottle where it's kind of rounded, like, it won't work. It needs to have a good neck on the bottle, and I will take you through why. So let's get cracking. This might be a bit of a longer video, guys, but I want to take you through the process and show you properly how it's done. Got our wetsuit trousers. This is a bit of a Blue Peter moment, just to speed things up a little bit. I have cut 2 parts to make the pissette already. So we're going to get on and start gluing that up first. So to cut that out, all you need to do is, in fact I can give you an idea. There's a rough guide here. So 5 inches long, 3 inches wide. Make sure you measure yourself on the flop, because otherwise, well, unless you're really into wetsuits, don't want to be walking around with that sticking out on the beach, do you? So we're going to get our wetsuit cement, and I have forgotten one thing, so I'm going to pause and I will be back in just a sec. Right, sorry about that, we had a bit of a pause. We're just going to get some wipes just to clean up any excess glue in case we do. If you don't happen to have a small child, go and buy some baby wipes or kitchen rollers, you know, something like that, just so we don't make a big mess. Put our cardboard down here. Now essentially, I'm just going to show you before we get on and actually make this. Here is one I made earlier, just out of some scrap bits of neoprene, so I'm not actually going to use this one, but it'll just give you an idea of what you're looking for. So we're going to glue the edges of the neoprene together, end on end. You can see it's 2 different pieces of neoprene, which is why it's got a weird liner on the one side. So these are going to go edge to edge, end on end, and then at the opposite end of the pissette here, it's going to be glued flat with a very small opening in the center, and that just means that from pressure from this side will allow fluid to come out. However, when it's not under pressure from the inside, it's flat and it doesn't let fluid back in. Now sometimes they do leak a little bit, it's just par for the course of getting these things, but try and make one that fits. Try and glue that in nice and flat, and that should solve most of your leakage problems, and then tuck it into your beaver tail. We're going to take our glue, get a couple of wipes out ready. So we take these 2 identical pieces, or as close to as identical as I can get them with a pair of scissors. So we take the glue, first things first, on the one piece, hold it this way up, pointed end down, just going to turn it onto its side, pop the bubbles out the glue, and we're going to run a nice bead of neoprene cement, a good amount, because we want this to be a really nice seal, all the way down that one side. Break that off. Lid always goes back on this stuff because it dries out pretty quickly. You don't want it drying out in the tube. So then we take the other side and just slide it up and down like that. Make sure we've got a good coverage of neoprene cement on both. Now I didn't put quite enough on there, so I'm just going to add a little bit more. Hopefully you can still see all this. Just add a touch more down there, Tiny touch more on there. Then we'll pop our lid back on. Now, if anyone's used neoprene cement before, then you probably know this already. However, if you haven't, this stuff essentially dissolves the neoprene and then welds it together. So we're just going to make sure that's an even coverage on there. Give it a nice little slide like that, and then give it a blow. And it's really shiny at the moment, so it's still very wet. We just want it to start to turn sort of more matte than glossy. And that tells us when it's going to start to stick. Then all you do, end on end, just start gently squeezing these together. Now, I think that was still a little bit wet. There's no dramas. Oh, no dramas if it is. Just work our way down, squashing it together. Once you've got it to the point where it's sort of holding reasonably well, it's not sticking here because the glue is still too wet, but we give it a really firm squeeze together, and that will help it set. And we're just going to work our way. It doesn't matter if it's starting to come apart there because we're going to come back over the whole thing. Work our way along here, firmly, very firmly pushing this together. Then turn it over. Same from the other side. And it's important you use a lot of force here. Really press that neoprene together. Make sure it's really well bonded, because we are only going to glue this, we're not going to stitch it. As long as you do this gluing properly, there is no need whatsoever for any stitching. So there we go. Now you can see at the base here, I've got a tiny little tag end. Just trim that, tidy it up. Lost that piece already. And that is glued already. It goes off pretty quick. I wouldn't pull it too hard at this stage. You know, you really do want to give it a full time to cure before you start yanking on it properly. But that is the first side done. And you can see there, it's quite a nice neat joint. You don't need too much glue. It's relatively straightforward and easy to get it right. Next up, we need to do the other side. So essentially, we're going to do the same thing again now. It can be a little bit more awkward this side because obviously we've already got this glued, so we can't just lay it out flat. But we should be fine. So a nice coating of neoprene cement down each side. Oh, see, this is why we have the wipes handy. Just wipe that bit off there. And we'll peel the rest of that off in a bit if we think we need to. So we can't rub the two edges together this time, so I'm just going to accept that it's getting on my hands and get it on my finger. Same down the opposite side. Lid back on the glue. Always put the lid back on the glue. It's a strong solvent-based glue and it just evaporates really quickly and it will knacker your glue if you don't put the lid back on. So always put the lid back on it, and then the tube will last you for ages. So, spilled a bit there, it looks a bit dodgy, doesn't it? So we're going to do the same thing now. We're just going to loop this over. Again, give it a blow. Just looking for the glossy finish to go away and for it to start to become tacky. And then exactly the same as last time. It can be a little bit more awkward because we're on the opposite side. We're just going to put that on there. I'll try and pinch it there, bring it together a little further up, and you can see this side is a bit more tricky, but once you get it lined up, it's very, very easy to do. So I'm just going to line it up along here, pinch it together along the middle. Now, if you can see, it wants to flatten out and it wants to unfold itself, so if you compress it this way as you're doing it, makes it a lot easier. These sides just fold straight down and inwards. And that's that done. We're going to go down the inside now, so you just peel it back. Get this first bit done nicely first, the thumbs, and then simply support on this side with your finger, push it in slightly so it forms this shape, and then work your way along, pinching, using your finger on the outside to hold it into your grip, and just pinch that all the way up again. And there we go. Okay, so I've had to switch cameras, so sorry about that, but the other one ran out of battery. Right, so we've got this made. It's all glued really nicely. It's really solid. See, it's not going anywhere. So next up, we need to glue the front together here. Dead easy. Gonna take our glue, and so we're trying to glue, if you can imagine, a Sharpie, we're trying to glue these sections here whilst leaving a gap in the middle. So you're not really going to be able to see my Sharpie marks with the camera, I'm afraid, but hopefully you get the gist of what's going on. So bring this a bit closer, put the glue on here, glue on here, and a little bit on the other side as well. So this small bit we're not gluing on the end to end, we're actually gluing it flat. We got the glue, put the lid back on that. Just got a nice amount of glue on the inside there. Just going to pinch that together, and the key bit here, you can take our scissors, and we're going to just slot them straight down the middle, so if any glue sort of squishes out, it's not going to glue the whole thing together. And then just give it a good pinch. And there we go. We'll give that time to dry. You can see there now, it's all nice and round at this end. Very nice flat opening on this end. We can trim that up and tidy it later on if you want to. And again, just really firmly pushing it together, making sure that that glue sticks really well. Bring you back once it's set. Right, that's all dried up. You can see from the cross section, it's nice and flat on the end, nice opening at the back. It's all ready to go. So we're going to get on and get it fitted onto the wetsuit now. First things first, you're going to need is a tape measure. You can either do this with a tape measure, or you can do it actually the way I prefer to do it, is to put the wetsuit on and take a Sharpie and just draw on the front exactly where you're going to want your passette to go. I've already put these on. You then need to dry them out, so that's why I'm not doing it right now, but you need to dry it out afterwards so the glue will set properly. So I know I've got a Sharpied mark right here that's where I'm going to stick it on. First things first, we don't want to go through 2 layers of wetsuit, and we don't want to stick them together. So we're going to take our little bit of cardboard here, slot that down, and sit that inside the wetsuit there, between the two layers, so that we can see that it's not going to glue anything together and we're not going to cut through. That card comes all the way down to here, to the base of the crotch, so it's covering right over where we're going to put the pissette on right here. Then, next step, and start cutting a hole in your nice fancy expensive new wetsuit. Now the way I prefer to do this is to just pinch up the top layer, just cut, and get through the stitch in here. Just cut a small hole, so you can see here it's not even really, maybe if I stretch the hole out, I've got a little hole in the middle there. And then what I'm going to do from there, I can grab hold of this again. So I'm just going to go out slightly to that side, out slightly to that side, and then cut 2 semicircles. And at this point you're kind of past the point of no return, because you've just cut a hole right in the crotch of your new wetsuit. Now, one thing to bear in mind when you are making this cut is cut initially less than you think you need, because the last thing you want to do is cut too much off and ruin your whole wetsuit. So initially I've just cut a very small hole there. You can see it's way smaller than the actual pissette, so we're just going to enlarge that hole slightly, and as we do that we're going to gradually work up to be the right size to get this pissette on. Right then, we've got our hole cut in the wetsuit, right in the crotch. As I said, you're past the point of no return. Next comes gluing on the actual pissette. So to do this, I'm going to use our bottle to make life a lot easier here. Just going to cut the bottle like so. Don't need that bit. And then opening up your suit, push that up through that hole, and as you can see, that will turn this so that all that neoprene is facing up beautifully. Then we're going to stick that on there like that. Next up, bit of glue, job done. So first things first, let's get that off there. Let's get this glue on here. So I think, judging by how that fitted on there, we're just going to need to take a little bit off the top of this bottle. We're going to need to take our glue. It really is this easy, guys. I know it's a scary thing to do, to cut a hole in your wetsuit, but it is as simple as this. So we want to make sure that's all facing up neatly, and then just apply a good bead of glue all the way around. Doesn't matter if it gets on the bottle a little bit. Obviously don't drown the bottle in it, but doesn't matter if you get some on there. Just make sure you get good coverage, because this is going to be what stops it leaking. Then the same on here, all the way around the edge. And the lid back on. Now this next bit, it can be a little bit fiddly, but honestly it's not too bad. So We just give that time to go tacky and let it dry out a little bit. Do the same for this bit on here. Make sure we've got good coverage all the way around. Just wipe it off my hand here a moment. So it's starting to lose its gloss effect, which means it's starting to be ready to glue. Same on here. So we're just going to line this up with whichever way you want it. You can either put it that way or you can go sports mode for streamline. And put it straight over the top of the bottle, slide it down. Then hand inside the wetsuit and just, well, you can do it from the outside too. Just bring that up so that those two surfaces meet nicely. I need to push this further on here. There we go. And then with the bottle in place, I'm just going to do exactly the same as we did before and work these surfaces up together all the way around. See, it's already starting to stick, although partially to the bottle, which is not ideal. So we're just going to make sure it's sat nicely all the way around, and just like we did before, pinch and just work your way around. Now I can take the bottle out, and there it is, almost done. So obviously we've still got our cardboard in here. That's going to stop the two layers sticking together. I'm just going to take this, open these up, hang on. So that's where it's glued on inside. Just going to work our way around here, pinching this seam all the way around. So hopefully you can see there, it's really nicely sealed all the way around. So we're just going to come back to the outside again, keeping that card in place. That card's going to stop the two pieces gluing themselves together. Just going to go back around the outside and make sure just check on these seams here. Looks to be good. And the very last thing we're going to do, obviously we've cut through some of the stitching on the wetsuit here. So the last thing we're going to do is where this stitching is at the top of the Pissette here, we're just going to put a nice dab of wetsuit glue there. And then the same goes for on the underside. Just a nice dab of glue there. All that's going to do is stop any of the stitching that's there coming undone, so we don't want it to all come unstitched when we're wearing it. Just make sure that's on nicely. Same for there. And that is one Pissette fitted. I'm just going to go around it one more time, give it an extra pinch just to be doubly sure. Right then, that has had a few minutes to dry. It's all on there. You can see I can pick the wetsuit up and shake it around by the Pissette. It's definitely attached really well. So we're just going to take out our piece of card here. Don't need that anymore. That's where the Pissette's fitted on there. You can see there's no gaps whatsoever. I don't think. Got maybe a teeny hole there, but I think that's actually an air bubble in the neoprene, but we'll glue that in just a second. But this is all the stuff that you want to be checking. So just give it a check over, make sure it's sealed. That's where there's been a little air bubble in the suit where we've cut through and gone through an air pocket. And there we go, job done. All fine this side. Turn them back the right way around. Pull that back through. And that is one finished Pissette. Dead easy. All you need, top of a bottle, bit of card on the inside to stop you gluing the two pieces together. I'm going to put that back in for now, just while that glue finishes going off. And it's as easy as that. So I hope that helps, guys. Sorry if it's a bit of a long video, but you know, there's quite a lot of little tips and tricks I wanted to get in there. I hope you enjoyed. Take it easy.